It's Star Wars Mansplained! Putting fans in their place, one Padawan at a time. And now, here's your host, Dr. Star Wars. And has he got some mansplaining to do?
Welcome to Star Wars Mansplained. I'm your host, Dr. Star Wars, because if there was a doctorate available for knowing everything in the galaxy about Star Wars, I would be the Palpatine of the professors in that institution of higher learning's Star Wars department. But enough about me for now. Let's welcome today's guest, or Padawan, as I like to call them. Please welcome one half of the Rebel Scum Podcast, James Ravioli. Hey, James Ravioli, okay?
Hi, thanks for having me. It's Rasile.
Welcome,
actually,
Jimbo.
Yeah, thanks for
Jimbo's fine, right?
It's James.
All right, Jimbo, let's keep going. Tell everyone in cyber outer space about Jimbo. Take us on a tour of your Star Wars journey. A personal Star Tour, if you will. Jimbo, Star Tours is a reference to a ride at a few of the Disney parks, and it's where you go on a Star Wars ride. And it's called Star Tours, so that's a kind of a reference to that when I say take us on a Star Tour.
Okay. Do you want me to talk about like when I've been on Star Tours or like?
You've been on Star Tours. You've been there, yeah. Okay,
yeah, a couple times, yeah.
Yeah, tell us about it. I mean, I've been on it. I can't even remember 60, 70 times. So
wow.
Yeah.
Does it get boring after like a few?
Oh, you would know, Jimbo,
like
since you know all about Star Tours, right? Tell me, mansplain me about Star Tours, Jimbo, please.
Well, I think that's your job, but
It is. So let's keep going. All right. Tell us about your personal Star Tour, not about your braggertons.
Gotcha. So, look, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I think that's why you asked me to be here, because I like Star Wars. Maybe not as much as someone as educated as you are.
And the massive amount of DMs that you were sending me wanting to be on the show. Yeah, mostly the DMs.
I don't remember those, but yeah, sure. I got into Star Wars. I think when I was a kid, I was born in the early '80s, and I had a lot of older cousins who had Star Wars toys, and I got those kind of hand-me-downs, and I got a lot of the new stuff like for gifts and whatnot. And so I think I just got into Star Wars with playing with the figures, and then eventually at some point I watched the movies. I couldn't tell you when. Like I've never had the experience of Vader as Luke's father. Like that doesn't exist in my memory because you
were a fetus when you started watching it, right? That's what I'm getting from this. You've just always you were born and they're like, look, it's got a Darth Vader mask on. Look at this little Star Wars baby. They haven't even cut the cord, and he's already knows everything there is about Star Wars. Okay, keep going, Jimbo.
I don't know if that's true, but I was young. I was young when I watched them, so I don't have like the big twists, the Luke and Leia brothers, just like those things just were a thing to me. But I love Star Wars. One thing I did get to go see though, and I brought this up many times on my show, is I got to see Ice Capades, Ewoks on Ice, which is the highlight of until my daughter was born. That was the highlight of my life.
Wow. Oh man, I'm so sorry, Jimbo. Wow. Ewoks on Ice, the highlight of your life.
It was good.
Oh wow. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Great. Yep.
Yeah. I loved Ewoks growing up. I hit that time, right? I would have been like 2 years old when Ewoks hit the screen. So like when that cartoon was on, I was like 4, I think. So it was the perfect age for someone like me to get obsessed with them. So yeah, Ewoks was a big part.
Someone who was born just knows everything about stuff. Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I should host this show.
Wow.
I thought it was, yeah. I loved all that but yeah, my parents, I never really saw I couldn't read when I started watching them, but I noticed that on definitely on A New Hope and I think Return of the Jedi, they were taped off of TV, so I never had the opening crawl. Like I never got the whole crawl. Like I think my parents taped them.
This is a family show. Let's not talk about illegal piracy activities. No, I mean, what you do on your own time, Jimbo, that's on you. But please, let's not encourage the youngsters.
I think it's legal, but I watched them like that when I watched them on my grandmother's beta tapes as well. And then I was really excited when they re-released them in the special editions in the theater, because I got to finally see them in the movie theater like they were meant to see. And there was like that dark time where all we had was like, the Thrawn trilogy and Shadows of the Empire. Shadows of the Empire really got me back on the Star Wars wagon.
Well, you're talking about shadowy empires. What are you getting at here?
Shadows of the Empire was it was a video game, toys, comic book, soundtrack. It was a whole experience.
You're boring the audience here. Talking about books. We're talking about Star Wars. We're not talking about books and encyclopedias and everything you're going through here.
Well, it's still. I mean, it is Star Wars, and it was a whole multimedia event type thing that they did with Shadows of the Empire. And it took place in between Empire Strikes Back and Return. I thought you would know this.
So George Lucas wrote those. That was George Lucas. He wrote it. He wrote that.
No, he didn't.
Let's keep going. Then. Let's keep going.
Okay, well,
hey, take a minute to look at my hat. What do you notice about my hat?
It says Lucasfilm on your hat.
Let me do something for you here. If you just look at part of my hat, what does it say?
Which part?
It says Lucas. And
it says Lucas. Yes, Lucas.
Yeah. Does the name sound familiar? I'm not talking Star Wars. I'm not talking Skywalker here.
I was gonna say Luke.
No,
S,
George
like
Lucas.
Oh,
film. Yeah. It's named after George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars film. It's his company. That's who made it. He's a businessman, and he came up with this idea, and he sent me this hat. So.
Oh, he sent you the hat.
He sent me the hat straight from his office in Lucasfilms. So.
And it's its own like.
Yeah. I like your shirt. Is that your church shirt? Your pew? You sit in a pew? Is that?
It's Star Wars. It's like pew 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 pew.
Yeah, I don't like to mix religion and pop culture. So let's we're not gonna talk about religion and politics here, okay?
Well, we're gonna talk about Jedi. Isn't that a religion in Australia? I think it is.
Okay, yeah. Let's keep going. I don't know what you're going on about. This is your story's over. Let's keep going. Your show. Oh, here we go. Some more about your show. Your show is called the Rebel Scum Podcast. Well, why are you a Rebel Scum?
Well, I wouldn't say that I am a rebel scum.
Most would. I would. Just from the piracy stories, the lies about when you were born, and the shirt you're wearing now. There's a lot of hypocrisy, Jimbo.
You're a lot. Yeah. So maybe, you're right. The comments will probably let me know how scummy I am. My co-host Brock came up with the name like 9 years ago, whenever it was we started it, and we kind of liked it. We thought it would be a fun, different name. And it was tough because back then there were 100,000 Star Wars podcasts. Now there's 100 million. So, you had to come up with a name that nobody had. And we couldn't find a Rebel Scum podcast. And Rebel Scum, you would know, they say it quite frequently in the movie series.
I see where you're going here. Barack isn't on here to defend himself. So he's the scum. You're the mastermind behind this show. Yeah. And you've had this podcast. So now you're just, Mr. King B.
I don't think I said that, but I mean, if that's your takeaway, then it's a little.
Jimbo, if you could marry one Star Wars character with whom you'd live with for the rest of your lives, so help the maker, why would it be the Rancor?
The Rancor. I never thought about the Rancor before. I guess, kind of weird, but they have. Through the series and the TV shows, whenever we see a Rancor, Wrangler, Trainer, whatever they're called, we the keeper. Well, you are the mansplainer, the doctor. Sorry, they have a really close relationship with them. They care greatly for them, and so you get the sense that Rancors, while they have the rugged exterior, they might be compassionate on the inside. They might like to sit down, listen to some light jazz. And stuff like that. So maybe, I guess that would be it. It would be like they probably make great companions, and there'd be someone that would listen, because they can't speak basic like I can. So they probably are great listeners, and that would, I guess, be why I would marry
Jimbo,
a Rancor.
You're sick.
Yeah.
I didn't think you would actually answer the question about the Rancor. And you just sat here telling me how you would marry a Rancor, your pet. This is disgusting, man. We're going on. Let's keep going. Speaking of ranking, I know you and Barack have an annual Star Wars ranking on the Rebel Scum podcast that just aired recently, January 1st. How did you feel about the results? And specifically, what film do you feel you love way more than most Star Wars fans? And why do you think that is? Start with number one.
Okay, the results. I like the results. They're fine. We had 67 people between YouTubers and podcasters and our Patreon supporters kind of give us a list, their personal list of it, and we combine them all into one because none of us really like to rank them. We like all Star Wars, so we combine it into one long list, and from there, the results, because we do it every year and because we have new people every year. Well, we add in new people. The movies are starting to change. When we first did it, the first few years, it was always the same results. And now, other than the top two movies, they've been changing throughout, and it's been great to see. Now, the second part of your question is I would say Attack of the Clones is probably the one that that one used to be last on our list. It's no longer last on our list, but it used to be for a long time, and that was one that I really, really enjoy that movie. And now, whenever I think of Star Wars, for whatever reason, my mind goes to the opening scene on Coruscant with the chase with Zam Wessel and Anakin and Obi-Wan hunting down the bounty hunter, the shapeshifter. And I love that moment, and I really, really enjoy the movie, and it's grown on me probably more than any other Star Wars movies has. So that's the one that I would say. And I'm really happy that it's no longer on the very bottom. It's still low, but it's no longer the bottom of the list. And I'm really happy about that.
Well, I'm glad you're happy. So The Last Jedi was at the top. Is that what you were saying, Last Jedi?
No, The Last Jedi wasn't at the top. It was closer to the bottom of the list, not the very bottom.
Oh, that's right. You only had 67 people vote. If you had 66, that would have made more sense. Jimbo, 66 is a reference to Order 66. That is when Palpatine ordered for the clones to kill off the Jedi. It's a throwaway line, and, well, you probably missed it, but it's called Order 66. So maybe next time you could have 66, and that would kind of fit a little more with your ranking skewed, because there's about 8 billion people in the world. So that's probably why Last Jedi is not at the top. That would be my educated.
That explains why I see people always post pictures when they have a takeout order and they're order 66. I never quite understood that. So thank you for clarifying.
I figured you didn't know that. There's a lot of things I've picked up on just in this short time we've been together. A lot of it is disturbing, which I've referenced more than enough times already. So what film do you love way more than most Star Wars fans?
Oh, Attack of the Clones.
Oh, that's the one. So that's what you were rambling on about. I'm sorry, I was still thinking about when you were talking about those books earlier. I kind of lost
they
track.
have the prequel books are actually pretty good. You should check those out.
You're out of time, Jimbo, but you have truly lived up to the expectations one would have for a scumbag. So thank you for that. And you're welcome for the Star Wars knowledge you have had mansplained to you today on Star Wars Mansplained. Before we give you the ventilation shaft, where can our listeners find you and your fellow scumbags on the interwebs?
Yeah, you can find us on the Rebel Scum Podcast on YouTube, also wherever you listen to your podcast. You can check us out there. We try to go live every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern over on Rebel Scum Podcast. I also have another channel, Digital Charcuterie, where I talk about other things.
Family show, Jimbo. Family show.
Talk about other things more than just Star Wars there. And I have a book that I wrote. You can buy it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you buy your books. It's called Cape Side Bay. I know you're a big reader.
All right, that's it. See you, Jimbo. Well, thank you all for joining us this week for Star Wars Mansplained. We can't wait till our next episode where we have another guest that I get to mansplain in all things Star Wars. Until then, may the Force be with you.